Hey there. Welcome to the IDP Plus Touchdown Props podcast, where if you're into TD props for week 17 of the NFL season, you've come to the right place. Hang tight. In just a second, I'll get into some of my favorite touchdown props for week 17 of the NFL season. Welcome back to the IDP Plus Touchdown Props podcast, where each week I've been giving out a buffet of sorts of players for who I've done research on, more or less laying out all of my research on the table for y'all, buffet style, to just kind of pick and choose which guys you like. I see if I strike a quarter with you on anybody. Usually I give out about anywhere from like 7 to 10 players. So there'll be plenty on the menu for tonight. I will just remind everybody that these aren't even really suggestions. It's more or less just me laying out research I've already done to potentially make bets of my own. So here we've got a number of players that I like in particular, whether it be due to matchups, they're on streaks, a combination of the two, the offense is humming, they're due. I mean, whatever the case may be, I'm going to lay it all out for you guys. So again, I just want to remind everybody that this is all in good fun. Let's remember to bet within our means. We don't want to bet the bank on any one thing. So let's stay responsible. And if you feel like you need some help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and jump into things here. And to start us off this week for Week 17, we've got Jonathan Taylor. After his monster week last week, where he just went nuclear with 3 touchdowns and over 200 yards rushing, something we haven't seen from him quite to that extent so far this season. But now he faces a New York Giants defense who's allowed 4 touchdowns to opposing running backs in the last 4 weeks. They've allowed over 110 yards per game so far throughout this entire season. That is 4th most in the NFL, so that just lends well to opportunity for Jonathan Taylor to break off for some big runs and just kind of have his way with this game. And I think that could be exactly what happens, especially if Richardson is out. That's less touches that are coming away from JT for the quarterback position. So JT is already seeing 20 plus touches a game. I think he could see even more with Flacco under center. So I think JT ought to have his way with the New York Giants, who've kind of just laid flat to end the season here. So I think JT could be in for another big game here for week 17 against the Giants. My second play here is James Cook. We're in kind of the running back section. I've been breaking it up by position. So we'll continue into our running back section here with James Cook at minus 145 for an anytime touchdown against the New York Jets. Cook is cooking with 8 touchdowns. Yes, 8 in the last 6 games he's played. He plays the Jets this week, who just let Kyron go for 100 plus and a touchdown last week, and they've allowed a running back touchdown in 3 of the last 4. James Cook isn't just squeaking in 1-yard touchdowns by any stretch. It's not like they're getting to the 1-yard line and then they just punch it in with him. The guy's been breaking off 40 plus yard runs for scores, I mean, multiple times this year, sometimes a couple in the same game. It's been ridiculous. So we're just going to let Cook keep cooking, and we're going to ride this while we can until before the odds get pretty ugly here, because at minus 145 we're teetering. I would imagine if he scores again, we're probably looking at minus 170 or shorter for your odds here. So we'll ride this while we can at minus 145 for week 17. Let's lock it in against the New York Jets. Next play that's going to wrap up the running back portion. I'm more or less just advocating for the matchup here. It's a particularly tasty one here for the Jacksonville running backs. I'm not sure. I think here I'm probably leaning Tank Bigsby. I'm advocating for the backfield as a whole because the odds are just too great and the matchup is too too juicy here. So Etienne comes in at plus 170 and Bigsby's plus 200 for a touchdown here. They play the Tennessee Titans, who've given up a league-leading 7 running back touchdowns in the last month, namely 3 to Jonathan Taylor last week. But not just Jonathan Taylor. He's not only skewing these numbers. That's 7 touchdowns. He has 3 of those 7. That still leaves 4 in the other 3 games. That's over 1 a game. JT went for 203 touchdowns. Chase Brown went for 97 and a touchdown. Bigsby scored 3 weeks ago in their last matchup against Tennessee, and 2 Commanders running backs scored as well 4 weeks ago. Bigsby is the go-to guy when they get in close. It seems like that's who I'm going to lean with on this. And you're looking at double your cash for profit. So if you feel ballsy enough to go with Etienne, the matchup is there. They could both very well score, but Etienne hasn't scored since like the first couple of weeks of the year. So take that with a grain of salt. I think Bigsby's likely to be the one that gets the chance to punch it in. And like I said, you're getting twice your money in just profit here with that. So even a bet on both, you're still going to make money if you wanted to play it safe. But I feel good about Bigsby this week. So we'll go ahead and jump into the wide receiver portion of the show here. We've got Devontae Adams coming in with an anytime touchdown odds at plus 170 against the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo has surrendered 6 wide receiver touchdowns in the last 4 weeks and 4 in just the last 2. And now we've also seen Adams heating up with 4 touchdowns of his own in the last 4 weeks, and he's showing out specifically for a job likely for next season. Him and Rodgers both, and now that they've got a real connection, they've rekindled that connection from last year. I would imagine that things continue in what I would expect to be a back and forth affair in this one. We've got guys on one side playing for jobs next year, and we've got Buffalo trying to keep their playoff hopes in as great a position as they possibly can be. So I think with Adams' streak, Buffalo kind of leaking wide receiver touchdowns lately, and some plus juice on an Adams touchdown here, I think we've got lots of things going our way for Adams to score a touchdown in this one. So Adams at plus 170 against the Bills. Sign me up. Next on our list, we've got Tyreek Hill coming in at plus 120 for an anytime touchdown. Get it while you can, because Miami is heating up. They've won 6 of the last 7. Tyreek also has a touchdown in 5 games during that stretch. They play the Browns this week, who have Dorian Thompson-Robinson at quarterback. The Browns have also allowed 6 wide receiver touchdowns in the last month. So kind of what I'm leading up to say here is that I don't anticipate Cleveland being on offense and a whole awful lot. I would expect a lot of 3 and outs and short drives, which means that Miami's going to get the ball quite a bit. I think the only caveat with this one is that Miami could run away with it, and if they run away with it, they're likely going to use HN quite a bit more. But I think Tyreek Hill is probably going to be one of the few that get an opportunity to let Miami take the lead early in this one. So I think while he's got plus juice, we better hop on it before, if he scores one more touchdown, it's probably going to drive it to some negative odds. So let's get some plus juice while we can on Tyreek in a good streak, in a good matchup. Let's go ahead and lock that one in for this week. Next on our list, we got another juicy one, not necessarily juicy in odds, but some guy who's been on a tear, and that's Terry McLaurin. For an anytime touchdown, he comes in at minus 110 against the Atlanta Falcons. The books are kind of catching up to this one finally. At last, I think this is the first week he's been negative all year in week 17. So we've been able to cash in a couple of times on him. So it's been nice so far this season. So again, one of those that we'd better go ahead and get in while we can, especially considering the matchup where Atlanta has given up 20 wide receiver touchdowns to the position this season, which is tied with Houston for a league lead in that category. They've allowed league leading 20 touchdowns to opposing wide receivers this year. A quarter of those actually have been allowed in just the last 4 weeks. Over the last month, they've allowed a quarter of those. So that's no bueno for Atlanta, but it's a great opportunity for us. So I think now that the books have caught on to us, I think it's time for us to go ahead and add this to our menu one more time before things get a little out of hand after McLaurin scores another touchdown this week. willing that one into existence, but things seem pretty good. McLaurin's actually caught a touchdown in 4 straight and 6 total in that time. So he's going nuclear. This team's steamrolling right now, especially after beating Philadelphia. So I think McLaurin could very likely catch another bomb from Jaden Daniels this week. You might throw a little something on there for his longest reception. Tons of his touchdowns have been 40 or more yards. It's been ridiculous, and there's still plenty of meat left on the bone there, because I would imagine our longest reception is probably going to be under 30 yards. So, there's some opportunity there. Great matchup, great player on a tear, and an offense that's just rolling. We've got some odds that are pretty favorable for us, so let's add that one to the plate as well. To wrap up my confident plays this week, I'm going to go to the Tampa Bay Carolina game, and I'm going to target Jalen McMillan again this week for an anytime touchdown. He's still at plus 140, a nice juicy plus 140 as they play the Carolina Panthers this week. And let's just talk about a few things with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, specifically Baker Mayfield, who's just been showing out. He's throwing the ball at will against any defense. 9 passing touchdowns in the last 3 weeks. All but 2 of those have been to wide receivers. So 7 touchdowns Mayfield's thrown in the last 3 weeks, regardless of whatever matchup that they've got going on. McMillan has also emerged as a touchdown threat in that time. He's connected with Baker Mayfield on 4 of those 7 wide receiver touchdowns that I'd mentioned just a second ago. So over the last 3 weeks, Baker Mayfield and Jalen McMillan have connected on 4 of the 7 total wide receiver touchdowns that Baker Mayfield has thrown in 3 weeks. With Evans drawing attention and this chemistry starting to really heat up with McMillan and Baker Mayfield, McMillan's just been feasting as a result of the attention that Evans has been drawing from opposing defenses. So add in the fact that the Panthers have allowed 5 wide receiver touchdowns the last 4 weeks, I think Evans and McMillan could very well both score again this week. But I'm particularly favoring the odds with Jalen McMillan. He's been on a real tear this year, especially the last month or so. And I like that chemistry, and Mayfield just loves him some Evans and McMillan. And Mayfield's not really one to spread the ball around, much like Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen. He's really going to stick to his guys, find who's open, hit them, and there's something to be said about the streaks he's had with Evans before. So I like McMillan here at plus 140 against the Panthers, a Panthers defense that is kind of just testing things out and seeing what works, because they're kind of falling apart overall. So great matchup, great player, great odds. Let's add that one to the plate too. Now to wrap up my show, I've got a dependency play. This play, I'm calling it a dependency play because it's really contingent on whether or not Joe Flacco plays, and that's Michael Pittman's anytime touchdown. It comes in at plus 215, a very nice plus 215. Mainly because Pittman's only scored 2 touchdowns all year, and this is a middling matchup for Indianapolis wide receivers anyways. But I don't think that Indianapolis is going to have trouble pushing the ball down the field against the Giants, because they've kind of just laid down as of late, the Giants have. And so I think, especially considering the fact that New York has allowed, I said it was middling. They still allowed 4 wide receiver touchdowns in the last month or so. So there's something to be said there. And Pittman's only 2 touchdowns that I mentioned earlier actually came when Joe Flacco was under center. So there's a connection there. I'm writing the history that Joe Flacco and Michael Pittman have. If Joe Flacco plays, then I like Michael Pittman to score a touchdown this week. Plus 215, you profit double your cash. So if Anthony Richardson plays, I'd probably more lean to like an Anthony Richardson touchdown, or just veer away from anybody not named Jonathan Taylor in this one. But if Flacco plays, I feel really good about him peppering Michael Pittman with tons of targets. He's going to be able to push the ball downfield. The Giants haven't been able to stop a sneeze. So I think this is a great matchup, some very nice odds, and Flacco plays, I feel real good about this play here. So that's actually going to wrap up our show for this week. There weren't too many things that I liked for tight ends or quarterbacks this week, considering the state of positions and matchups. I would say I will throw it out there that Kyler Murray's anytime touchdown was like plus 2 to 300. It was ridiculous. It's like plus 300 for Kyler Murray's anytime touchdown. He just scored last week. He's actually in an outstanding matchup. Just the rushing volume and inconsistencies with him finding the end zone. It's not like he's a Jalen Hurts or Josh Allen where he's punching it in dang near every other week. He's kind of been fluky finding the end zone on the ground, but he did find the end zone last week. He's in an awesome matchup this week. There's potential there, great odds. I don't know, maybe he's getting on a roll. I didn't feel confident enough to put him in here. Then Josh Allen's always a great option for an anytime touchdown, no matter the odds. And I don't imagine as a quarterback that his are getting quite to the level of running back odds where we're looking at them like minus 170, minus 200. I don't think he's quite there yet. So Josh Allen's always kind of always one of those plays. You guys know that. So I really keep them on the, I usually keep guys included in this till things get crazy, but I guess I should always probably put some Josh Allen in here. I'll just kind of caveat that moving forward. Some guys they're kind of a luck each and every week. You're going to hit more often than not. Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Derrick Henry's, but sometimes the odds get a little too far away from us. It's not really worth putting our money into to invest. So that's when we just kind of pivot and find who else could emerge. So again, that's going to wrap up the show for this week. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you to anyone who's a return watcher, somebody who's been here before, somebody who's new. Welcome for your first episode. Hopefully you liked what you saw and I was able to strike a chord with you somewhere. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe. If I strike a chord with you, let's talk about it. Let's go back and forth on what we've got for this week's set of games. Let's have a little fun with this. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at AxmanIDP. Again, let's just have some fun with this, and hopefully we can come away with a little extra cash in our pockets for this week. So good luck out there. Let's remember to bet responsibly, and we'll see you back during playoff time for some more bets. So good luck out there this week, everybody, and let's have a good weekend.
Thank you for watching the IDP Plus YouTube network. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Be sure to tap the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload new content.